All right, so today we're going to make a drawing that is really just kind of a cool coloring drawing to make. We're going to have concentric circles, and a concentric circle is simply a pair or more of circles that all share the same center. And we are going to make sure that the radius of each circle is increasing by the same amount every time. Now the key to this drawing is we need to create a pair of parallel lines. Once we have a pair of parallel lines, then we're going to be able to use our compass to measure and create more parallel lines. So that is what we're looking for. So the math skill that we're really looking at today is how do we construct a pair of parallel lines? And then the other piece of math we're talking about is what does concentric mean? It means it has the same center. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to draw a line. Now this line does not necessarily have to be parallel to the edge of the paper. This line should most definitely be going along the short side of the paper. And I would at least allow yourself about an inch. And you're going to draw this line fairly light. So this is a light line down the edge of the paper, so I'm going to use yellow. It does not need to be parallel with the edge of the paper, that is fine. It could be a little diagonal, it'll be just fine. So now the next step. Now that you have your line, yeah, we're going short direction, Landon, short direction, not the long direction. All right, now the next step, we want to have a point of reference. So I would draw a dot on your line, but I would make sure you have about an inch at least on the edge of the paper. So it doesn't really matter where this point is, as long as it is about an inch or more away from the edge of the paper. And you're going to make a second dot. You're going to make a second dot, and we want the second dot to be fairly close to the first, but not too close. Not too close. Does not matter. So I'll just make it a little bit longer. So again, it does not matter where you put it as long as it's along the line. If you really, yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna do it here. However, you know, you could also do it like this. That would be fine. Point is, you just need 2 points of reference. So the next thing that I'm going to do is, in order for me to draw my parallel line to my yellow line, I'm going to have to create a perpendicular line to my yellow line. And the way that I'm going to create a perpendicular line is by creating a perpendicular bisector. So I'm going to place my metal compass point at one of my point of references. So here's the thing. Just hold on a second. And I'm just going to zoom in, make sure that my compass is in a good place. All right. So it does not matter how large your compass setting is, as long as the compass setting is past where you think the midpoint is going to be. So I can have my compass setting open a little bit, a lot or a little. The trick here is I cannot have my compass setting, I cannot have my compass setting open more than the distance from the point of reference to the edge of the paper. So I'm going to have my compass open about this much, because I know that I can keep this arc inside my piece of paper.
Oh, it has to be inside the 2 dots that you made?
No, it does not need to be inside the 2 dots I made. But it has to be larger than halfway between the 2 dots.
Larger than halfway.
Larger than halfway between the 2 dots. And then I'm going to make an arc on both sides of my... Oh, that's a very dark gray line. I want a lighter gray line. There we go. So I'm going to make 2 arcs on either side of my line. And then I'm going to move my compass without letting the compass setting change. I'm going to place the compass point at the intersection of my point of reference and the line. I'm going to zoom in to make sure I'm in the right place. Accuracy is really, again, going to matter on this one. This is a drawing where if you have a small inaccuracy, it will compound. In other words, it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then with the same compass setting that you had before, you're going to draw your second round of arcs such that you have 2 sets of intersecting arcs. And again, we are creating our perpendicular bisector. Then you're going to take your ruler and you are going to verify. You're going to take your ruler and you're going to connect your 2 points of intersection. And voila! You have now created a perpendicular bisector. And it is perpendicular as in it cuts the yellow line at a 90-degree angle, but it is also cutting the space between the 2 points of reference exactly in half. So now we have a perpendicular bisector.
Do we draw it across the whole paper?
Yes, I would draw it across the whole paper. So we have 1 pair of perpendicular bisectors. Now follow me on this. If I create a second perpendicular bisector over on this side of the gray line, what will happen with the new perpendicular bisector and the yellow line? They should be parallel, right? Because 90 plus 90 is 180. So we should have a parallel line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same process I already did. But this time, I'm going to put my points of reference over here.
Can those just be like a... Wait, so should we give ourselves a little bit of space on the left side, like that?
You definitely want to give yourself a little bit of space. That is actually, but it doesn't really matter.
Should it be the same amount of space?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, well, I'm going to do this.
So then, you're going to take your compass, put the metal tip at the intersection of, or at one of the points of reference. I'm going to zoom in just so I can see it a little bit better. Oh, I was not close to that one. So you just put the metal point at any of the point of references.
Alright, so we can just make a dot on the line?
Yes, you can just make a dot on the line.
2 dots, right?
Yes, it doesn't, so it doesn't really matter how far apart.
Just an inch.
And that's fine. And then you're going to go ahead and make 2 arcs.
And our compass setting can change, right?
Yes, but once you start making your arcs, you do not want your compass setting to change. And then you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side.
These are parallel, but they're not parallel to the other.
Correct. So your 2, so if you do everything right, the 2 lines that you drew should be parallel, but they're not necessarily parallel with the edge of the page. Oh no, I missed it.
Yeah. No, I was wondering because this is like past the other one. Alright, is this past?
So I'm going to fix my mistake right here.
Protractors are really difficult to use on small settings.
Literally got 15 breakers.
Yes, they are.
About 5 minutes ago on this.
Compasses are hard to use on small settings.
Laminated.
I think mine is hard.
And then unlaminated thing.
If you can hear me, clap once. So then, any guesses what you're going to do? That's right. Same exact thing.
Or make it like a square.
We're not making a square, however, we are making a pair of parallel lines, which is the focus of today's class. Yay! And so now you have two parallel lines on opposite ends of the paper. Yay! We love perpendicular bisectors. Yeah, we do. Connor, can I help you?
I need a compass.
You need a compass. How about this one? This is a compass.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bless you. All right. So I'm going to give you a moment, and then we'll restart the instruction. All right. So this is the point where accuracy really matters a lot. So what we're going to do is we're going to place our metal compass point at the intersection of my first perpendicular bisector and either of my yellow lines. It doesn't matter which one you start with here. Now I'm going to zoom in because accuracy really does matter a lot here, and so I want to make sure that I'm accurate. So if I look at my original, I can see that the more concentric circles I have, the more interesting this drawing is going to be. So I really do want to have a small compass setting for my compass. The catch here is, if your compass setting is so small that you can't control your compass, you can no longer be accurate. So this is kind of a balancing act. You want a compass setting that is small enough that you will have a bunch of concentric circles, but not too small so that you can't control it.
So we're putting this on the edge of our paper?
So you're doing this along one of your parallel lines.
And it has to fit in between the two X's.
No, it does not have to fit in between the two X's, but I want this example drawing to have a large number of concentric circles, so I am going to draw as narrow as I can just to make it more
So
interesting.
we don't have to be as narrow as
You don't have to be as narrow, but again, the more concentric circles you have, the better it's going to look.
Okay.
All right, so the next step here is I'm going to make a series of arcs. Now, since we started our perpendicular bisectors sort of with some space to spare, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make an arc above. Then I'm going to take my compass, I'm going to scoot it so that the metal compass point is at the intersection of the arc I just drew and my parallel line, and I'm going to draw another one. And then I'm going to work my way down as well.
What
So
if it goes out of the X's?
it's okay.
It's allowed to?
Oh yes, it's allowed to go out of the X's. Because I'm about to go out of the X's here.
No!
Yes. And this is one of those situations where a mistake early can compound to the point where your drawing is not going to look right. And you're going to continue to measure the same distance all the way down your line. Now, for those of you at home, I'm going to pause the video and just continue on my line. All right, so at this point, I have a lot of these arcs measuring all the way down my line. So without letting the compass setting change, I am now going to do exactly the same thing on the opposite side. So I'm going to place the metal compass point at the intersection of the perpendicular bisector and the parallel line. 400 zoom. Oh my goodness gracious. That is a problem.
What?
Oh, okay, I'm going to cheat a little bit here.
What?
So it's on the video. All right. So then you put the metal compass point at the intersection of the, oh, that's only 200 zoom. Oh, geez. You don't want that. There we go. And so you'll do the same thing, working your way. I did 2 above, so I'll do 2 above here. Have you guys ever had the situation where you have a song stuck in your head that's super catchy, and it may not be the worst song in the world, but after the 3rd hour, you're like, no more. No mas, no mas.
It's like one of the songs that's like you can stand, but also it's bad.
Right, just don't listen to it in the first place.
11.
Okay, 11 is better than 9. And so for those of you at home in the video, I'm going to pause my video so that you can do this and pick back up when you're done. All right, so welcome back. So now we have a bunch of arcs that are equidistant from each other on both of my parallel lines. So what we're going to do now is we are going to go ahead and, well, we're going to draw. We're going to draw lines using our ruler connecting our arcs. So if you do not have the same number of arcs on each side, this is not going to work out for you. If that is something that has happened, then clearly your compass, either you are off on your measuring or your compass setting has changed.
Yeah, I don't know what I did.
Wait, Mr. Frankie, since I restarted the arcs, can I alter my compass setting?
Sure.
Bro, is this hype?
And it's fine if these
Now, in first period, Bora had a really good observation. He pointed out that if you wanted to double check that your compass hasn't changed settings, all you need to do is measure this original distance again.
That's what I did.
And if you do that, you should be able to verify that your compass setting has not changed.
Wait, why didn't we just like draw a ruler on the first one instead of making another?
Bless you.
Wait, why did we need to make it both sides?
Wait, Mr. Frankie, it's fine if these two circles are different sizes.
How do you explain
So we're just drawing more lines. Obviously, you're going to use a ruler. I'm using a straight line tool.
These are so many.
And the trick here is you need to make sure that these lines remain parallel
Right, that's not it.
across the entire drawing.
Shaking the table. Yes, I do. Look. Why? If I do the one on one side, then I can still go.
Oh my god.
I need a line.
Free ball.
Give me a paper one then. I don't have one.
Wait, why didn't we just draw a ruler on the first place?
So Simon, what was the question?
Why didn't we just like draw it across the first place instead of doing a couple signs on the other side?
Well, because we need to make sure that the lines are parallel.
Yeah.
And so we need 2 points of intersection to make sure we have parallel lines. All right, so if you can hear me clap once. If you can hear me clap twice. All right, so at this point, I may end up using all my lines. I may not. That's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to identify a line that I'm going to call the center. Now, originally I picked this one, but I think I'm going to pick one above it. So I'm going to identify this as my center line. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my compass as close to this, what I think the center is as possible. And then I am going to measure, and I'm definitely going to want to have a dot. This is going to be helpful. I definitely want to have a dot showing my center point.
This is straight, right?
So I'm gonna identify this as my center point. And so here's what I'm going to do. I am going to measure using my compass. I'm going to measure to the first line. And actually, you know what I'm going to do before I do this?
No, I have trouble there.
I'm going to turn all of these lines gray so it's going to be easier to see my circles. What the flip? Oh my goodness, such language. Alright, so I'm going to make a circle after I measure the distance from my point, my center, and my first parallel line. And I'm going to make a circle. Alright, look at that. Then, without changing my point of reference, I'm going to change the compass setting to measure to my second line. Oh, that's looking pretty good, folks. Then I'm going to open the compass setting again.
I'm not a fan of this one.
This one is super detail oriented. So are all the other ones moving forward, actually, so this is good practice.
I'm making a new hole for this one. Please stop shaking the table.
So then you're going to measure again. Draw a circle. So Simon, are you talking about the circles?
Yeah.
So you're simply going to measure from your center point to the line. So I'm just measuring each line.
Alright, well this is easy. It's not easy. Well, yeah, once you finish though.
And then you just go to the next one.
Yep, and then you just go to the next one. And you're using the same center point every time.
Yep.
See, it's going over the line. That means my line is over. Right?
Yeah, that's kind of what it means.
This line is just gonna...
Wait, did they have to be like the same? No, my second one wasn't. No.
See, you keep shaking the table.
So Lucy, you need to relax a little bit. This drawing is super detail oriented, I agree. But there's no reason to stress. Besides, look how beautiful the one on the board is turning out to be.
Yeah, it's electronic compass.
No, it's just because I am
Perfect.
no. the electronic compass does help.
Oh my god, you think?
Oh, I don't think I know this one.
Yeah, I think I know too.
But if it makes you feel any better,
You do too?
You get one more.
thank you very much.
The keys are good.
So,
They're definitely keys.
they're
I swear they're keys.
For those of you at home, my two favorite 7th grade students are bribing me with Rice Krispies.
We're not bribing you.
You get 13.
We're giving you food because you asked for some.
Which is the definition of my favorite student.
Giving you food because you asked for it?
My favorite student will always be the person who gave me food most recently.
Mr. Frankie,
Which means everyone has a chance of being my favorite student.
like my lines aren't...
Yeah.
I'm doing fine. It's just a little bit sad. That's okay. Just gonna restart the whole thing in math helps.
It's not a minus.
Be nice.
I have 21 and 23. It's getting farther and farther away from being perfect.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I mean by any little mistake compounds. So the more mistakes so if you make a mistake in the first one, then it's going to get worse and worse and worse.
My circle's just above the line. There we go. Not too bad.
This is going to be like the world's longest how-to video, but I gotta say that this has come out really nice.
I know this distance is stupid.
Okay, finally I got a ruler. Everybody arts. We're just gonna.
All right, if you can hear me, clap once.
But it's funny how mine
You need me to clap
stretches
twice.
now.
All right, so
She's like bullying us before.
when it comes to coloring, you can do lots of really cool things here. And you can color it any way you want. Just the trick here is you're gonna want to find a pattern that makes sense for you. So it doesn't really matter how you want to do this pattern. You can do a little rainbow thing.
It looks like a record.
Oh, it should be yellow, huh?
Wait, we have to have at least 15?
We have enough time in class to
We have about 5 minutes left.
It has to be odd though.
You really think he's in the 20s?
Yeah, it's not gonna be crying. I'm in the 20s. He's in like the 30s.
So yeah, you're not really going to do a double construction on this one. Really, the key here is, can you make enough concentric circles to make the drawing look nice?
No.
She said very angrily.
brown and blue. Those two good colors.
I made a mistake there.
That feels just like the summary of my day right now.
Alright, so obviously you can color it any way you want. Here's one example of coloring, just following the lines coming out of the center. But you can do something like the example. Anything you want, and finally you can do anything you want. Hope you enjoyed the drawing of concentric circles, and come back again.